Now that listeners, we have explored the historical prevalence and biology of anger in our part 1 of the episode, let's dive into some effective strategies for emotional regulation and anger management. These techniques can help you manage your emotions more constructively and avoid those impulsive reactions that we often regret later. I'll try to present each strategies along with with an example to illustrate how you can apply them. So let's talk a bit about healthy strategies using insights from both psychology and philosophy. First and foremost, like we said, self awareness is the key. When we recognize that we are angry, we can pause and ask ourselves, why am I feeling this way? Now, this is where CBT or cognitive therapy comes in. Because CBT encourages us to identify the thoughts that trigger our emotions and to challenge the validity of these thoughts. So, by reframing irrational beliefs such as this person always disrespects me, we can reduce the intensity by our anger and see situations more objectively. Write down, there is an exercise where you write down the thoughts that's accompanying your anger. Challenge these thoughts by asking if they are based on facts or assumptions, and consider alternative perspectives. Say you're upset because a friend forgot your birthday. You might think they don't care about me at all. Instead of this, write and reflect. Could they have simply forgotten due to a busy schedule? This shift in thinking can lessen your anger. Another strategy is mindfulness, which draws on Eastern philosophies like Buddhism. Mindfulness teaches us to observe our thoughts and emotions without getting attached to them. Instead of identifying with our anger, mindfulness helps us to see it as just another passing state of mind. So, through mindfulness, we can learn to experience anger without letting it consume or control us. When you feel angry or when you feel the anger rising, take a moment to pause, close your eyes, and focus on your breath. Inhale deeply through your nose for a count of 4, hold for 4, and exhale slowly through your mouth for 6. Repeat this cycle several times. Imagine you are at work and your colleague makes a dismissive comment about you or a project that you're handling. Instead of reacting immediately, you take a step back, close your eyes, and practice mindful breathing. This will help you to regain the composure before responding, and you'll be more thoughtful in the response that comes out of you. Lastly, most important is the power of forgiveness, and it is not the easiest. But when you forgive somebody, you can feel the level of stress, anger, and even physical pain reduce. Dr. Fred Luskin, a researcher at Stanford University, he studied this effect of forgiveness and length and breath. And his research shows that people who forgive experience less anger and more emotional resilience. And forgiveness doesn't mean we ignore wrongs or excuse the bad behavior. No. Rather, it means we choose to release ourselves from emotional grip of resentment. This is a personal exercise that I do. So if somebody has hurt me, and in my line of work, I do come across some really hurtful remarks. So what I do is I think back. I'm very thoughtful before I respond. In some situations, I prefer to be calm and composed and not give my response at that moment and revisit the situation. Because in most cases, when the person is having an outburst on me, I don't take it personal because it's nothing to do about me. It's more reflection on that person and the person's attitude. That's the way I look at it. So when this happens to me, if it's very hurtful, my self esteem says, I don't need this. So I do forgive the person and I delete the contact. I do not block them, I just delete the contact. I have forgiven the person and I don't have any resentment or anything from that. But that person is no more in my contact list because that person does not, I haven't given them that personal touch in my life. Because people who are very close to you hurt you the most. So if we don't give them the control to hurt us and we take that control back, that hurtfulness does not mean anything to us. Now, let's talk about the pause technique. When you feel the urge to react angrily, consciously take a pause, like as I do. Now, I used to be a person who would, first and foremost, I'm a Taurian, so I do get angry. It's in my personality, but I have, in my personal experience, learned emotional regulation to so much extent and practice it, learned and practice it, that when a person is reacting towards me, I have a thing called self resilience towards the reaction. So, what I do is I do not give anybody the pleasure of my reaction because I control my reaction to the situation. So, what this pause technique is very helpful in those cases. You count to 10 or longer if necessary. So, if you are in a heated discussion with a family member and you feel your temper flaring, count to 10 before responding. Or sometimes, if you're going to take a decision, and I did do this personally, if there is a decision that's going to have a future implication, always talk to somebody else. And what happens is when you talk and you let this out, there is a thing called self reflection happening into this um, audio audio version because some people are very auditory. So when you say things out, they listen more effectively because it bounces back to their ears. So when you do this exercise, you know, okay, you're doing the self reflection, bouncing back and forth. And then you know, okay, maybe this is not the correct response to this situation. And this moment allows you to gather your thoughts and respond more calmly rather than saying something hurtful in the heat of the moment or doing a decision that would have drastic consequences and you can't take them back. So it's like called, there are various steps that you need to take for every situation. Now, another effective strategy, which we all know, is journaling. But then like as I said, some people are very auditory, some people are visual, kinesthetic. So everybody has a different approach to learning, to listening, and to strategizing. So it's what works for you. Journaling might work for somebody, it might not work for other people. For other people, it would work to talk to a friend, to say the things out. It's kind of a journaling. So, what we do in a journal is we dedicate it to our emotion, in this case, anger, and we write down our trigger of anger, how we felt, and how you responded. So, same is the situation where you're talking to your friend. You say what triggered you, how you felt, and how you're going to respond, or how you responded. For example, after a frustrating day, you might write about a disagreement with a coworker. Reflecting on it later helps you to recognize patterns in your anger and think about how to handle similar situations better next time. I always do this bounce back technique. I like to talk to people and weigh my own decisions. And sometimes, believe me or not, most of the times actually, it's very helpful. So let's now move on to a physical activity. So, engage in a regular physical exercise like running, dancing, or yoga when you're feeling angry is a good way to how, if you have time, or if you can make the time out. Now, like I said, it depends on person to person. One, this is not a tailor-made approach. For some people, mindfulness might work, a physical activity might work, or talking to somebody might work, or doing a journaling might work. So we need to know what tailors and meets our need. Like, if you feel angry after if you feel angry after a tough conversation, you take a 20-minute walk outside. Now this is meant to release your pent up energy and clear your mind, and can help you in certain situations and be more centered. This is a good technique only if you're engaging the active only this is a very helpful technique if you're engaging your mind into the activity, and you're doing it with a more mind to activity focus. But if you're on going onto a mode, an auto mode, and you don't know, you finished this activity, you came back and you didn't even think, oh, you did this activity because you want to delay the response to the anger, or reflect back on anger, then this physical activity is not worth the time. Now, another Now, the other exercise is progressive muscle relaxation, where you find a quiet place to sit or lie down, and starting from your toes and working up to your head, tense each muscle group for 5 seconds and then relax them. For example, after a stressful day, you sit quietly and tense your feet, hold for a moment, and then slowly release them. So you move up to your leg, torso, arm, and face. This physical relaxation can help ease tension associated with anger. And this, believe it or not, it does work in occasions, and it helps us to just freeze into that moment and time. Another strategy is that you visualize a peaceful scene or a place where you feel calm and safe. So, when feeling overwhelmed by anger, close your eyes and visualize a tranquil beach. Imagine the sound of the waves and warmth of the sun. Now, this can help shift your focus away from anger and promote calmness. But then you have to be a very visual person to do this. Another technique is when you are expressing your anger, practice using I statements instead of accusing somebody or using accusatory language. Instead of saying, you never listen to me, say, I feel frustrated when I think I am not being heard. And this fosters a more constructive communication. And you won't go into this defensive mode. Like I said, for some people, talking to a friend, family member, or therapist about their feelings could really help. For vast majority of people, this often helps to seek support. Because if you're struggling with anger from a recent event, and you make a call to your friend or share your experience, discuss your feelings, then you're providing a validation and a different perspective that can help you process your emotions more effectively. So, listeners, implementing these strategies can significantly enhance your ability to manage anger and promote emotional regulation. Remember, managing anger is a skill that requires practice and self awareness. If the situation or if this anger management is crucial to us and our role, then we need to approach it with more dedication. And then you can transform your relationships with anger and navigate conflicts more constructively. Now, let's just take a quick break, 2-minute break. And when we return, I will do an NLP exercise with you for delaying anger response. Now, for this exercise, listeners, we have to take a moment and reflect. Reflect on, do you ever feel angry? If so, why do you think that you get this emotion? What are the situations that trigger this emotion for you? Now, understanding the root cause of your anger is crucial because for this exercise, as it will help you and it will allow you to recognize the patterns and triggers in your emotional response. So, this exercise is specifically designed to help you delay your response in moments of anger or frustration. It will guide you through a process of self awareness and intentionally in responding to triggers, allowing you to manage that emotion of anger, more effectively. So, first and foremost, think of a situation that commonly triggers your anger. This could be an interaction with a colleague, a family member, or even something you see in the news. Take a moment to visualize this scenario in your mind. Now, if you are auditory, just let your hearing sense do the job. Once you have your trigger in mind, I want you to practice a simple countdown. When you feel the anger beginning to rise, count down from 5 to 1. So, for example, there is this colleague or a family member that he or she says something and this triggers the anger. So, count down from 5 to 1. So, it goes like this: 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. At the end of your countdown, create a mental pause. This is your moment to take a deep breath and really let the countdown sink in. By doing this, you're allowing your logical mind to catch up with your emotional mind. Now, I bring this to our example. Say you have a colleague or a family member who was very rude to you. So what do you do now, this stage? So you say to yourself, in this pause stage, I'm going to respond to this with clarity and calmness. So this pause gives you the opportunity to reflect rather than react impulsively. Now for the step 4, after you pause, ask yourself a reflective question. For instance, what's the best response I can give here? How do I want to handle this situation in a way that aligns with my values? As we approach the step 5, now with your emotional state a bit more settled and your logical mind engaged, choose a response that reflects how you truly want to communicate. It might be a calm conversation, a written message, or simply deciding to walk away from the situation temporarily until you can think more clearly. I encourage you listeners to practice this exercise regularly, even when you're not feeling angry. The more you train your mind to use this 5-second countdown, the easier it will become to implement it in real situations. So by using this very basic NLP exercise, you're not just managing anger, you're cultivating a habit of mindfulness and intentionality in your responses. It's a powerful step towards transforming your relationship with anger and enhancing your emotional regulation skills. So, listeners, to wrap up, anger is a natural and even necessary emotion, like every other emotion, but it's one that requires awareness and intentionality to handle constructively. If left unchecked or unmanaged, anger can cause harm to ourselves and others, creating lasting damage to health, relationships, and social dynamics. However, by drawing on the wisdom of psychology and philosophy, we can turn anger into a tool for self-discovery and personal growth. As Aristotle said, the goal isn't to eliminate anger, but to express it at the right time, in the right way, and for the right reasons. tame your anger. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Let's Talk and Learn with Mary Joyse. I hope these insights have offered you some new ways to think about and handle anger. Remember, anger is a part of human experience, but how we deal with it can make all the difference. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing, a thumbs up, or leaving a review. Share it with friends or loved ones who might benefit from this message. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover, feel free to reach out. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, take care of yourselves, be kind to others, and remember, personal growth is a journey, not a destination. Thank you.